President Trump extending his deadline for strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure as back-channel talks appear to be moving forward.
All these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators.
But the market isn't buying the calm just yet. Oil climbing again this week as traders bet the Strait of Hormuz is one bad headline away from a much bigger global supply shock. And as Trump talks de-escalation, the U.S. military is still surging forces into the region. The 82nd Airborne Division deployed to aid reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And the Pentagon is now weighing sending 10,000 additional troops to the Middle East. I want to bring in from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts. Senator, great to have you on the program. What are your thoughts on sending these 10,000 troops to the region? There are many in your party that are still against sending boots on the ground to Iran.
Well, the administration has been very clear that the point of this operation is to degrade Iran's missile capabilities, whether it's their launchers, their stockpiles, their ability to manufacture, and certainly the launch of the intermediate range missile at Diego Garcia should demonstrate how imminent this threat is, because that missile could reach London and Paris, and that means that the Iranians are only months away from developing one that could reach the United States. And so we can't let them have that kind of missile, especially if they could develop a nuclear weapon. So we need to degrade those facilities, obviously sink the Navy, destroy the Air Force, and then degrade further the nuclear facilities. The president has also been very clear that he doesn't really put boots on the ground, or if he does, it's like in Venezuela, where it's just for a matter of a few hours. So I would say that if there is a contemplation of how they're going to use those, it's not going to be for some sort of prolonged engagement. It's going to be something that is going to help further the ends of the operation, which is destroy the missile capabilities and the other things I just mentioned.
Well, something that could come up in the reconciliation process would be the Pentagon's request for $200 billion in additional funding. Do you support that?
Well, we haven't seen what that request all entails, so it's important to get into the details. But one of the things that we did last year is we put another $150 billion into the military. We need to make sure we've got a strong military. We've got to deter our adversaries such as Communist China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And we've got to make sure we've got a strong military to be able to do that. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what Secretary Hegseth is putting forward along those lines. I absolutely do believe we need to continue to invest in a strong military.
Well, certainly as we continue with this conflict in Iran and tariff pressures, there is an economic effect here. President Trump is looking for ways to ease that pain for American farmers. He hosted hundreds of farmers and ranchers at the White House Friday, rolling out new relief measures to help the industry with rising costs, energy, fertilizer concerns. Watch.
Every day we're looking for new ways to support our farmers, reduce your costs, and to help lower the price of food for the American family. Today we're announcing new guidelines drastically limiting these ridiculous DEF rules, saving farmers and consumers billions and billions of dollars.
The new measures include increasing SBA loans and rolling back regulations on equipment and diesel emissions. You represent Nebraska farmers. So what impact will these new measures have, do you think, on the industry?
Yeah, these things are important. We've been talking, I sit out in Environment and Public Works, and we've been talking about some of the problems the regulations with regard to diesel engines have created. And so getting rid of some of that red tape will make sure, for example, that farmers can operate their machines during planting and harvest without worry that they're going to have the machines just randomly or arbitrarily shut down on them. A lot of actually it's like something like 70 or at least 50 to 70% of the problems have to do with this emissions problem that has to do with forcing the engines to shut down that sometimes don't even have anything to do with emissions. So I think cutting the red tape is going to be a good thing to do. And frankly, right now, the farm country is in trouble. There's, commodity prices are low, input prices are high. So anything we can do to help out our farmers and ranchers is going to be important. We want to, for example, try and get past E15 all year round. That would be one of the things we could do to really help our farmers out.
Well, certainly anything that they could do with regards to diesel prices. Isn't that the biggest impact that these farmers have right now on the bottom line?
Well, that's one of the inputs that go into it. You know, there's a lot that goes into farming. We want to make sure that we're doing all we can to bring those input prices down. But the flip side of that is to get commodity prices up. And another way we can do that is, again, E15 all year round. Sure. And then, of course, opening up trade opportunities.
Yeah, and loan guarantees from the Small Business Administration. Again, this all-of-government approach, whether it's the SBA, small business, and, of course, making sure that those farmers are not crushed under high energy costs, which unfortunately right now Americans are seeing at the gas pump and just in general. Let's stay on the issue of farming and ranchers. Can you give us an update on the recent wildfires? These were the worst in history for Nebraska. What is the extent of the damage to your state, and in particular the cattle industry there?
Yeah, the fires have been absolutely devastating for our ranchers and farmers in Nebraska. Over 900,000 acres have been burned. It's an area bigger than the state of Rhode Island and represents just about 2% of our state land area population. Sadly, we've had a fatality. We pray for that family. We've had hundreds of people had to be evacuated. Tens of thousands of cattle are going to be displaced. And frankly, our ranchers are going to need help for many months to be able to feed those cattle. So that's one of the things that we're going to be focused on, working together with the state and the local authorities, is how we help those ranchers recover from all the grassland that's been burned.
Well, going back to the EPA here for just a second, is there a way that the EPA can maybe come up with some deregulation or at least new guidance that would kind of take the permitting process off the backs of these folks as they try to rebuild? Because we've seen that with the fire victims in California struggling under the permit process. Can there be more done?
Cheryl, you're absolutely right. That's exactly one of the things we were talking to Secretary Rollins about when she visited Nebraska a week ago. Getting flexibility in some of these regulations will really help us. So, for example, when we're going to have to replace a lot of fence, giving us flexibility so they don't necessarily have to go back in the same place with the same type of fencing because it may not be available. One of the things that this has done is burned what we call the sand hills. So after the grass was burned off, the winds kicked up and blew the sand all over the place. Well, we're not going to necessarily be able to find the same post holes anyway. So we need that kind of flexibility to be able to get the things done we need to get done, maybe to do irrigation and get some freedom from flexibility on that, to be able to do that when we wouldn't ordinarily do it. Those are some of the ideas that we need to kick around. Plus, there's also farmers who are not impacted that would be willing to help out our ranchers by not growing corn and let the cattle graze there. But we also need to work with the USDA so that they can somehow be reimbursed for that.
Well, please keep us updated on how they are doing, and of course, if the rebuilding process begins. I do want to ask you about this before you go. You recently introduced legislation in the Senate that would prohibit members of Congress and spouses and children from purchasing publicly traded stocks. The bill's already facing criticism. It doesn't go far enough. We've seen many of you and your colleagues try to push through bills or any legislation on this topic. It always seems to hit a roadblock. Why is that?
Well, this is a great bill. The Stop Insider Trading Act that Brian Stile introduced and got passed in the House passed with bipartisan support, and we're going to be working to build that support in the U.S. Senate. It really builds upon what we've done in the past where we've had disclosure, but that really wasn't sufficient enough. So what this does is says if you come into the Congress, you can't buy any more stock, so we're not going to allow you to use the information you may have here that you may gain here to be able to buy more stock. And if you own stock already, you can sell it, but you have to give the market 7 to 14 days advance notice, so that there's not even the whiff of impropriety here that somehow you're selling because you've got inside information. Americans and Nebraskans, they don't send their elected officials to Washington to make money on insider trading. This would make sure they know that the people they elect are not going to be able to use insider information to pad their wallets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Senator Pete Ricketts, it's great to have you on the program, sir.
Right,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.